Hello, my name is Anil Shrestha, and I'm a professor at the Plant Science Department at California State University, Fresno. Now, California grows hundreds of different types of crops, many of which are specialty crops. Even within the specialty crops, there are a subset of specialty crops which we are going to talk about in this video. And this is a video on the Southeast Asian vegetable crops, which falls under the specialty crops. Now, to begin with, where is Southeast Asia? Where is that region, and which countries does it comprise? So, namely, you can see there it includes countries like Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, even Philippines to some extent. So this is like the Southeast Asian region, and they have several types of crops there that have been brought to the United States, namely to the Central Valley or California, to be more precise, and they are grown here by the farmers locally. So when you look at the population of people who identify themselves as Southeast Asian in California, a large number of them are Filipinos, but not a large number of Filipinos are involved in farming. The other communities that you see there, Vietnamese, Cambodian, Hmong, Thai, Laotian, these are the people who are involved more in farming of these specialty crops. So the majority of these people, I'm going to focus more on the Hmong people because they are more, into farming, and they are located more in the Merced, Fresno area, as you can see in the yellow in that map. They also are located towards the north of the state to some extent, and that's the distribution of the Southeast Asian people in the Central Valley. Now, the largest Southeast Asian communities that are involved in farming, as I just mentioned, are the Cambodians, the Hmongs, the Laotians, and the Vietnamese. And they're involved in a small-scale vegetable production, and usually the general tendency of these farmers are to lease land from other people. So these are mostly leased lands. So out of curiosity, we wanted to know, what are the crops that they grow? Of course, I'm not going to be able to talk about every each crop that they grow, but we will give you an idea of what are the major crops. And before I get into what crops they grow, I would like to introduce Mr. Michael Yang, who is with the UC A&R program. He is very much involved in these Southeast Asian communities as far as vegetable farming goes. And the UC has a small farms program through which they promote or help these Southeast Asian farmers with their farming practices. So I asked Michael, what are the crops that they grow? And this is what they had to say.
Here we have over 200 variety of specialty vegetable. Not just one, but there's so many of them. I can name one of them, like lemongrass, the long beans, other cucurbits like bitter melon, mokwa, sinqua, and opal. Those are the cucurbits, and there are other one as well.
So we just heard Michael say that there are hundreds of different crops, and he kind of named a few important ones that are grown in California. Now, the UC A&R program, the Small Farm Program, has a website, and from that website, it can be seen that they classify the crops under these families like cucurbits, legumes, solanums, crucifers or brassicas, monocots, and others. Now, here's what Michael has to say again.
California, majority of all these special crops are grown in Fresno, but we do have farmers throughout the whole Central Valley, from Kings County, Tulare, Fresno, up to Sacramento. So majority of those small farmers in Fresno.
So the question was about where are these farms concentrated, and we just heard Michael say that most of the farms are concentrated here in the Central Valley of California. And just to give you an aerial view of what these farms look like, and the point of this picture is that they grow a diversity of crops. The land holding may be small, or the farm size may be small, but the types of crops they grow is very diverse. And you can see in this overhead view of a farm that the farming practices, the types of crops that they grow. So that's an aerial view, and you may have noticed the mixture of the crops that they grow in this system. The other thing that we wanted to know is what is the reason for the large concentration of these Hmong farmers in the Central Valley? And here's what Michael and a local farmer had to say.
Hmong farmer, there's a lot of Hmong farmers settled in the Central Valley, especially in Fresno County, because the valley here, the climate is suitable for a lot of the crops that they grow back in Laos. And so when the Hmong came here, they settled throughout the United States. And they have friends, cousins, aunts and uncle live here, and they grow, a lot of crops they grow back home. It grow pretty good here. So, by word of mouth, everybody just moved to the Central Valley, especially to Fresno County, and they start grow ever since 1976, because the country, communists took over in 1975. So, the only way and only thing the Hmong people know, either you are a farmer or a soldier. A lot of people said, why is so many Hmong settled in the United States? The reason was that the United States was in a war, in Vietnam, called the Secret War, and then they made a promise to the Hmong people, because Hmong people live in Laos at the high elevation, the very top of the mountain, and then the Mians and then the lowland Lao live in the very lowland. And so the United States, one way to stop the communists from going from north to south to, kills a lot of American soldiers down there, they have to recruit the Hmong from the highland, the high country, to stop the communists. And so they agree, and they made a promise that you help us and to stop the communists, and when we win the war, and then we help you and help your country. But if we ever lose a war, you can come along with us. So we didn't, the United States did not lose a war. It was that the political decision they made in the United States. So they have to pull American soldier and the CIA, they send a CIA over to recruit the Hmong. Like I said, it's supposed to be a secret war, and the public, did not know about it, when secret, and so, the U.S., they send, fighter plane like T-28, and weapons and just everything, so the Hmong people can use it to help them, help the American. And so, the political decision was made, and they had to pull all the CIA and the American soldier back. And all those who served, during the Vietnam War with the American have to come along with them, U.S. soldier, or be prosecuted, And so like him, like my family, like a lot of Hmong that help the U.S., it has to come, or else to be persecuted. That's why, now when you talk about the secret war in Laos, when the word secret, the public's not supposed to know. So the Hmong has to either, move away. So one thing that the Hmong people, like I said, in Laos, you either a farmer or a soldier. That's pretty much it. There's no, no school, no, no technology, up in the highland. And so, when they get here, the only thing they know was farming. And farming was hard because, if you were to farm the way they farm back home, the term called slash and burn, over here, if you were to do the same, you would not survive. You would not make it here, because here technology, chemicals, and education, and just everything you have to, irrigation and all that, and regulation, all that, And so over there, the term slash and burn, you just cut down the forest and burn it, and then, wait for monsoon rain to irrigate the water. All you do is just put the seed in and do weeding, and pretty much it. There's no fertilization, no chemical, no irrigation. Pretty much there's nothing, no technology, anything.
So now we have an overview of the historical perspective of how these people decided to come to the Fresno area and farm in the Fresno area. So that's like a very good general overview. Now I would like to move on and talk about the different types of crops that they grow. And I'm going to follow the UC IPM, I'm sorry, the UC Small Farm Program outline with the families of crops that they grow. So, of course, I'm not going to be able to talk about each and every crop, but I will show some pictures of major crops that these people grow, and also try to show you some videos of these crops. So let's begin with the Cucurbitaceae family. So the word cucurbita is a Latin word meaning gourd, and they include about 101 genera and about 975 species. These are mostly summer annuals and are viney, and some can be perennials. The plants are generally dioecious, that means the male and female flowers are on different plants, or they can be monoecious with the male and female flowers on the same plant. Now, to give you a perspective of the benefits of cucurbits, as far as the nutrition goes, they're very rich in protein, fiber, and a lot of essential minerals, vitamins, fatty acids, and these crops have antioxidant, anti-diabetic, anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory, and antimicrobial properties that makes them a very important group of vegetable crops. Now, again, focusing just on the Southeast Asian type of cucurbits that are grown, these are the major ones: bitter melon, yellow summer squash, bottle gourd, dish rag gourd, also known as loofah, angled loofah, snake gourd, hairy melon, and the Chinese winter melon, or also known as the Dongqua melon in the local language. So, just to give you some idea of what they look like, on the top left is bitter melon. On the top right is the yellow summer squash. And on the bottom left is bottle gourd. And on the bottom right is loofah. Now, there are two kinds of bitter melons. One is what they call the Indian type, the South Asian Indian type, which you can see in the inset in the picture. These are smaller and shorter than the bitter melon that is in the other bigger picture. So that's some of the melons and the squashes. And another point I want to make is the loofah. If you have probably seen, the inside has structure, as you can see in the inset there, that is used for like as a sponge for dishwashing, and in many countries they also use it for as a sponge while taking bath. When they take bath, they also use that. So it also has other uses. Here's a picture of angle loofah and snake gourd. On the left is angle loofah, and the snake gourd is on the right. As you can see, these are viney crops and need some sort of a trellis system. This here is your fuzzy gourd or hairy melon, also known as chikwa. On the bottom is your Chinese winter melon, also known as dongqua. And these are the two types of major melons that they grow. Others that are pretty popular are your oppo squash, also known as bottle gourd, the mukwa squash, fuzzy melon, and then the ridge gourd, as you can see on the bottom left, and the coyote. In local language, in the Hmong language, they call it susu. Now, um, the these were some of the major squashes and melons that I just showed you. We wanted to know like how they are grown. Again, I'm not going to go into details. I'll not be able to go into details for every crop, but Michael is going to give us an overview of how these crops are grown.
As it grow, it climb up the netting, and when it set the fruit, it flower first and then set the fruit. It's a very large fruit, like a cucumber, but it's a squash. So these stakes are for the netting. So they're about to put the netting here, but first you have to put the stake first. Then you can use a wooden stake or metal. In this case, you use metal. It's stronger because when the plant gets up here and it produces fruit. If you don't have a strong stake, then the whole the bed here or the whole row collapsed. So that's why you have a stronger stakes here.
Now, these were crops that were grown in the open field. Now, not all crops can be grown in the open. Some of them need special microenvironments. So, as you can see in this video, some of these crops are grown under hoop houses so that they get the microenvironment that is necessary for their proper growth and development. So, not all of them, the crops are grown in open field, and that's why we saw the mixture of hoop houses and open field crops in this in the aerial video that I showed you earlier. So that was the cucurbits. Moving on to legumes, we are very familiar with legumes, and these are basically the bean crops, and they belong to the Fabaceae family. Faba means bean, and they include about 950 genera and about 19,000 species. These crops can be annual, biennial, and perennial, and the plants are hermaphrodite, meaning both male and female on the same flower. Now, the other characteristic feature of legumes and why people use this in cropping systems quite a fair bit is they have nitrogen fixing bacteria in the roots, and these are called rhizobium. They are located in the nodules, and these fix the atmospheric nitrogen, and these add nitrogen to the soil. So that's why addition of these crops in the cropping system in crop rotations is considered beneficial. So this is the nitrogen part of it. But then it has a lot of nutritional benefits. The legumes are known to be rich in protein, fiber, carbohydrate, vitamins, and minerals. And they also have low glycemic index, which makes it a good food for people with diabetes problem to include in their diets. It lowers cholesterol, and it has anti-inflammatory and properties, and also reduces blood pressure. And you can see some of these papers if you're more interested in it. So now we're going to focus on the major legumes that these Southeast Asian growers grow in their farms. And these include the Chinese long beans, the snap peas and the snow peas, the fava bean, and the hyacinth bean, or also known as lab bean. So just to give you an idea of what they look like, on your left is the Chinese long bean. Again, they grow it in trellises. This is like more of a viney crop. The snow pea in the middle, and the fava bean on the right. So these are like some of the major legumes. And as I said, the hyacinth bean, the lab bean, is another legume that is pretty popular among the Southeast Asian growers. So here's a video of what a bean field looks like. It's a pretty dense planting system, as you can see there. So they plant it quite close, and again, this is just one type of bean, and some of them are grown on trellises. You can see it in the video on the right corner there. So now let me also make the point that these crops are very laborious to grow. They depend a lot on hand growing right from planting to harvest. And here's bean crop being harvested. As you can see, it's a pretty laborious process. The people have to go through carefully, pick the beans, and it takes a lot of time. And here's the farmer, the owner of the farm that we visited, showing us how the beans are picked. So again, a very labor-oriented farming system. Now, so those were the legumes. Now, let's move on to the Solanums, belonging to the Solanaceae family. So the Solanum word comes from the Latin word night, meaning nightshade. And these include about 98 genera and about 2,700 species. And again, they include annuals, biennials, and perennials. And just like the other families that we talked about, the plants are generally hermaphrodite, and male and female organs are on the same flower. So some can be monoecious or dioecious. Now we're very familiar with tomatoes, and this belongs to the Solanaceae family. This family is rich in lycopene, fiber, carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals, and they contain flavonoids, phenolic acids, alkaloids, and a lot of different products that protect us against non-communicable diseases. And they're also known to have these chemicals that are in the Solanaceous family have anti-cancer, antioxidant, antidepressant, and you can see there's a lot of different other nutritional benefits or health benefits from this crop family. Now, let's look at some of the major solanums that are grown by the Southeast Asian growers, and they include thigh pepper and eggplant. It seems that these two crops have a lot of market value and demand, so that's why they grow these two crops in particular. Here's a picture of the thigh peppers. It looks unique as the fruits kind of point upwards, as opposed to a regular chili. So that's thigh pepper. And then the eggplant. Eggplant is a little different from the regular eggplant that we see, which is more oval or roundish. The eggplants that the Southeast Asian farmers grow are more elongated and longer than the regular eggplant. So that kind of covers the solanaceous plants. Of course, they also grow tomatoes as well, but they are not specialty tomatoes, but mostly regular tomatoes that we find. So the next family is Cruciferi, or also known as Brassicaceae family. The word crucifer means in Latin means cross bearer, because if you look at the flower, it looks like a cross, and the petals in the flowers they make like a cross. And by cross I mean the shape of a cross. And this family includes about 372 genera and about 460 species. And just like the other families, they include annuals, biennials, and perennials. And the reproductive systems are similar to what we discussed in the other families. Now, again, there are a lot of nutritional benefits from crucifers also. They're rich in protein, fiber, carbohydrate, vitamins, and minerals. One characteristic feature of this family is they contain glucosinolates. And you may have heard of glucosinolates. And the other things that they have are your beta carotene, and there are a lot of other nutritional products in these crucifers. And as you can see on the list, they have the ability to protect against cancer, heart diseases, and many other types of physiological health problems. So let's look at some of the cruciferous crops that the Southeast Asian farmers grow. And these are the major ones: the bok choy, the daikon radish, the gailon, and the Chinese cabbage. And here are some pictures of what they look like. On the top left is your bok choy, the daikon radish on the right on the top, the gailon, which is more like a leafy green, and then the Chinese cabbage. Now, again, it's not possible to show all of these crops being grown because some of them are seasonal. And here's Michael talking about how bok choy is grown.
As you see, the Shanghai bok choy and the baby bok choy, the white stem here, the Shanghai like it formed like a bulb. So this it's ready to harvest. This one, ready for market. As I said, he staggered his planting, and there's some just came above ground, and this one's ready to harvest. So keep the market going.
So Michael mentioned the word staggered planting, and I'll come back to it later in towards the end of the video to talk about staggered planting. And again, these crops need quite a fair bit of labor. In fact, most of the agronomic practices, harvesting, etc., are done by hand. And here's the farmer showing us how daikon radish is harvested. And even for they sort the crop also.
Nathan can show you how to harvest the daikon too.
How do you guys harvest the daikon?
Yeah, that's how you do it.
Some they use the top or some, but for me we use like that, like a radish.
Go ahead. That's how you harvest that. Yeah, cool, real easy.
Real fast.
Just pull like that. That's it.
That's the way we do it.
If
It's a
you
little
have-
bit too small.
And sometimes you leave the leaf here. People eat the leaf too. But if you just eat the root only, then you top off the leaf. That's Chinese radish.
So that was hand harvesting of radish. And next, the gailon crop. Again, this one's also hand harvested, and Michael explains that to us.
Leave for a couple more days, it's mature. So right now, even it has some flowers, it's still good because you see the very succulent shoot here. And this is the part that you eat. Very, very tasty. You go to any Chinese restaurant, you ask for the gailon or Chinese broccoli, they cook you this one, and this one's very, very tasty.
This will eat every week. Once a week. Where this way you cut this one come out. This, and you take this one and come out.
See this one, like Nathan explained, you already harvest this part, but then you have no more shoot coming. So you keep harvest through couple months. Yeah, maybe
2 years almost.
So that was in a nutshell the cruciferous crops. Now we move on to grasses and lilies, and these crops are also grown quite These crops are also quite popular among the Southeast Asian growers and also the consumers, and they include crops like lemongrass, the Chinese lettuce, or also called keltus, the Japanese branching onions, water chestnut, Japanese yam, and taro, also known as dashin in their local language. And here's lemongrass, which you have probably heard of. It's a native plant of Southeast Asia. It is rich in flavonoids, phenolics, and antioxidants. It is known to have all kinds of medicinal properties, as you can see in the list there, and that's why it's also very popular as a medicinal crop. Now, the UC Small Farm Program has research plots on lemongrass. There's quite a fair bit of research being conducted by the UC Small Farm Program. And here's how the crop is planted. Here's a research trial that is being initiated or has been initiated at Parlier by the UC Small Farm Program advisor. And it's a pretty interesting system of planting. Again, pretty laborious, and everything's done by hand. So that's lemongrass. We move on to other types of crops, and these are like some of the pictures of the other crops that was on that list. The Chinese lettuce, the Japanese bunching onion. On the bottom is water chestnut. The left bottom picture shows what is seen above ground, and the water chestnut, the fruit itself, is on the bottom under the water. So you can see that on the right side of the screen. So that's water chestnut. Another popular crop, actually it's the field, the Chinese lettuce field. That's how it looks like in the field. And you know, it's in the middle. It's surrounded by other crops in the system there. So that's Chinese lettuce. Then the Japanese sweet potato is also quite popular. It is also rich in carbohydrates, fibers, vitamins, and nutrients, and also has a lot of medicinal properties to it, making it a popular crop. And taro is a root vegetable belonging to the Araceae family. Now, taro is not only a Southeast Asian crop. They grow a lot of taro in other parts of the world, like Africa. Also grows a lot of taro, and it's a staple food of many countries. It's believed to be one of the earliest cultivated plants, and both the leaves and the corms are consumed. And these also have a lot of health benefits to them, and a lot of nutritional properties to them. So those are your taro crops and the yams that we just saw. And then cilantro is another important crop grown by these Southeast Asian farmers. And again, it's a very laborious process. You can see hand harvesting of cilantro going on over there. Others in the list include basil, which is pretty popular among the Southeast Asian growers. Then fenugreek, also popular among the Southeast Asian growers. And even in South Asia, fenugreek is a pretty popular green vegetable that is consumed in South Asia as well. Now, let's pause and now talk about the agronomic aspects. Now, it's not going to be possible to give you an agronomic aspects at each and every crop, but we will, in this video, try to give you a general overview of how these crops are grown. And it's going to be similar in many respects, but not exactly similar for every crop. But we will try to give you a general overview of these crops. So the first thing I wanted to know is, like we have seen a diversity of these crops. And I was curious, where do they get their seeds from? And here's what Michael had to say.
Mainly, a lot of the open pollinated crops, they save the seeds because these are specialty. But there's a local seed company in town called Amgrow. So a lot of farmers get their seeds from that company.
So the next question I had is, okay, these seeds are brought from somewhere else, but are there any local efforts for plant breeding or breeding varieties of these crops? And that's the question I asked Michael, and that's what he had to say.
Much, but the long beans, the three variety, the red, the dark green, and the light green. We've done some research on those variety with a researcher from UC Riverside, and it came out with a new one, so it helped a lot.
So, how about the planting system? Again, this is a general overview, and this is what it looks like in the field. Most of these crops are manually planted or transplanted, and that's the point I've been making repeatedly, that it's a very labor intensive system, and they're grown on raised beds with drip irrigation system. Some of the crops could be grown on flat beds, but most of them seem to be on raised beds and used with plastic culture. Not always, but they do use plastic culture in some of the crops. So here's a look at one of the plots. So the next question is pest management. What do these growers do as far as pest management goes? Do they follow any IPM practices? Do they use pesticides? Many of these farms can be organic or are organic, but not all of them are organic. So let's hear what Michael has to say about pest management.
Any crops you grow, whether for family or for markets, there's diseases, there's insects that you need to take care. And so, yes, like I said, many of these special crops, don't have registration. So research need to be done.
So, as you heard, there's a lot of room for research and pest management in the systems, and also for developing IPM systems, registration of pesticides if they prefer to use pesticides, because not all of these small minor crops have pesticides registered for them. So that's another area of research that is needed. So mechanization for these types of small farms are also important. So research has to be directed towards mechanization of these small farms as well. One problem could be that these farms are leased, and not all of them are owned by the growers. So that has also to be taken into account. So otherwise, it is a very laborious hand, operated farming system. You can see a number of people there involved in various operations, right from seeding to harvest. So it is a labor-intensive system, as you can see over there. On the right, people are harvesting. A little bit of scouting also going on for pests. So again, there's a lot of different crops within the farm. So it's a combination of different crops, and many of these crops need different management systems. So is mechanization a possibility at all?
I think, anything you do at the farm, you need equipment. So each crop needs small equipment, not the large, high tech, but very labor intensive. So you need equipment, and just pretty much the manpower to also to work.
And here's an overview. You can see the complexity of these farming systems. You can see hoop houses, flat beds, raised beds, a lot of different crops needing a lot of different management systems, and couple that with the need for labor. It's a pretty labor intensive system, but nevertheless, it's very interesting to see these growers grow these crops. So these crops are not only laborious to grow, but are also management intensive, and some of these need microenvironments, and that's why you see these hoop houses.
Humidity and the temperature outside, inside is warm enough to help the crop grow.
And many of these crops have to be planted early, and it's cold early on in the spring season, and care has to be taken to grow these crops during the early part of the season. So here's Michael talking about those issues.
So they planted sometime in February or March, and then right now just the beginning of May. This to help the keep from the cold. So to warm up the transplant, and once it heats up, they take out the styrofoam. So the styrofoam just very simple. It's just a drinking cup, styrofoam cup. So to cover the plant from the cold.
As I've been talking about, hand harvesting, the packing, the shipping process is also pretty laborious. As you can see, the growers sorting through the crops. So again, a very laborious process. Now, I mentioned earlier about staggered planting. Now, they don't want all these crops to be out in the market at the same time. So what they do is follow a practice called staggered planting. That means they plant the crop at various dates so that they don't mature at the same time, and they have a continuous flow of the crop in the market. And here's what Michael's discussing.
Staggered planting, you see there are some very small plants that came up. Other about to harvest, because he goes to farm market every week, and once he done harvest this, he goes to the next. So that way you have a consistent harvest throughout the year.
So where can you buy them? There are a lot of Asian stores in the Fresno area or in the Central Valley or even in the whole state where they sell these products in the market. They also have these roadside stands for market purposes. And some of these growers, they grow as far as Los Angeles. In this case, it's Cerritos, where they take their produce to farm markets and sell the product. So it's a laborious process starting from planting all the way to marketing. So I hope this was a good overview of the Southeast Asian cropping systems. Again, it was not possible to go through every crop in detail, but I hope this was a good general overview of how these crops are grown and also a historical perspective of the farmers themselves. Thank you.